afternoon. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us on Midday at 12:30. I'm Amber Freeman.
And I'm Monica Shear.
And I feel like you need to introduce yourself.
And I'm Dr. Kristin Mark. Hello.
We love when Dr. Mark's here. Monica gets super excited.
I do. And a little nervous, but mostly excited.
Well, in case you do not know, and hopefully you do now, it is time for Pillow Talk. We have relationship researcher, educator, and therapist, Dr. Kristin Mark. Now, today we are talking about why it is so important to use accurate sexual terminology.
Yeah.
Serious.
You don't like this one, do you?
She loves this one.
this one, because I feel like I know, right?
Yeah.
But I'm also the mom that, with my 3 children, it's man parts, girl parts,
Right.
boy parts, woman parts.
So we're
like,
going to talk about why we need to shift that today.
I'm gonna.
And a lot of times, you know, we laugh because some of the topics may be a little uncomfortable to just talk about for a lot of people. Monica, she has
Like
a
a little
down pat,
wiggly,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But sometimes people laugh. You never do. You keep it very, very serious.
I mean, I'm used to talking about this stuff every day, all day. So, you know, genitals are the same as any other body part in terms of the way that we talk about them. And there's a purpose to that.
Well, what is that purpose?
So that purpose is a few different reasons. So for one, you know, when we're talking about genitals and we're talking about them in a way that's like silly or funny, or we're giving them odd words, we're sending the message that we shouldn't be talking about them, right? We're giving them a layer of lack of seriousness that is creating a barrier to communicating about sex. And the ways that that's particularly important, that I think will resonate with you especially, is that if kids are getting that message and something bad is happening to them, like they're being touched in a way that they shouldn't be being touched, then they don't feel like they're allowed to talk about those things. They also can't have any sort of level of specificity of telling a trusted adult exactly what happened. And we give them the message that it's not okay to talk about these topics, that these topics belong behind closed doors. And then that really leaves them feeling like they don't have anywhere to go. So I think that that's the most compelling reason why we need to really talk about this and why we need to be using accurate terminology when it comes to genitals and sexual behaviors. But
That I really didn't expect to go there, but that makes so much sense, and it's so serious and so important. Also, Kristin, do you think that it kind of leads to why we're so taboo about talking about sex, even in media and even in movies? Sometimes it's still, and the United States has a tendency, I think, to be even more conservative about it.
right, yeah, it trickles down. So there's that very important, serious reason. But then there are the reasons around like relationships. We know that when you're satisfied in your relationship, you are way happier overall in your life. When you're satisfied sexually, you're happier in your relationship, and vice versa. So, and really one of the keys to sexual satisfaction is communicating about sex. And if you don't feel comfortable and have never felt comfortable or never sort of been given the space to be able to talk about sex in a frank way or in a way that like lends itself to a serious topic, then that can be more of a barrier to being able to talk about these things.
Do you feel like there's a time though? Is there a how young is too young type thing? Like, my kids are 9. Oh Lord, I gotta think. They're 9, 6, and 5. And I feel like, I don't know. I still feel awkward about the whole thing. Like, what am I supposed to be like? And that's called this, you know?
Right. So I think from the time that they're starting to identify their genitals, like, you should be using accurate terminology with them because it's just a body part, right? It's just a body part. Now, in terms of sex and talking about like sexual activity with them, there are developmentally appropriate times that are a little bit later on that you don't have to worry about quite yet. Although you should be ingraining messages of like good touch and bad touch at this point, and like that, you know, your genitals are for you to touch and not for anybody else to touch. So those types of messages can certainly be ingrained from a very young age. But the terminology piece, I would be getting started with that right away.
Start to move that along.
You should really start with that from day one.
She should also have pictures, right?
Well, I don't think you need that.
I just want to make it even.
No, we don't need. You don't need to worry about that.
Okay, good.
Is there ever a time as adults that it's okay to use kind of, I don't want to say nicknames because that makes it sound, but you know, other words.
So the main time that I ever use sort of nicknames is if somebody's talking to me about it and they're telling me something, and then I want to use the same language that they use to reflect back to them, like in a therapeutic setting or like if I'm giving an educational seminar. But I always talk about why it's important to use the accurate terminology generally.
So like even in a conversation, you would be like, hey guys,
I
back
wouldn't
up.
stop them, no, but I would just repeat it in
This
a way.
is really what it is.
I would just repeat it in a way by using the accurate terminology in that context. Like if I'm talking with my friends or whatever and somebody calls a vagina by the wrong name or a vulva by the wrong name, then I will just say it back to them using the correct terminology. Just to try and normalize it. It's important to normalize it.
I mean, it's all very normal. I mean, I can't argue any of that.
Yeah.
I just don't know when I'm ever going to use vulva in a sentence.
You just did.
Other than that.
There you go. Yes. And you did it on
We
TV.
did it!
We're making strides, Monica. Making strides.
You
I
blocking
love this
myself in the
progress.
corner.
Yeah.
This is really wonderful. I'm really
She goes
happy
back
about
to her
this.
office
Yes.
and
Yeah.
takes notes.
Check.
Today, Monica said this.
But I won't do it again.
Do you think that, okay, so we said in the beginning that, that may be kind of the reason we're kind of taboo about some things, because it seems like in Europe and in different art settings, places where they're a little bit more immersed in it and it's not so taboo, it's a little bit more normalized. But do you think that the fact that in movies and in film and in art it is so sensationalized adds to the problem here?
So I wouldn't necessarily say that it's sensationalized in art in particular. I think art is an expression that has been used to really normalize a lot of body
I'd
parts.
say
and
more like
sexualization.
comics, not like, we're not
yeah.
saying like Michelangelo
Sure,
and all that
sure.
kind of stuff.
So yeah, I think the media portrays relationships and sex very inaccurately, right? We kind of see that trope of this happens, this happens, this happens, and then this happens, and that's
like that.
Just like that.
Yeah,
we all know
every
that
time.
that's not true. But when you're growing up and you're really digesting all of that information, then it can kind of feel like that's the way it's supposed to go. And that's not always, first of all, celebrating women. Often it's really focused in on men, and it doesn't allow for women to have agency in all of that.
Right.
And so that can be a problem. That is a problem, and it's ingrained in our culture in that way. And the same thing happens when we're talking about sex.
We just acknowledge it. If people like Monica need some help maybe getting their kids in the right mind frame,
Right.
how do we get a hold of you, Dr. Mark?
Yeah, you can reach me at my website, kristinmark.com.
We appreciate you being here. I'm excited
Thanks
about
for
this
having me.
progress.
Yeah.
I know, this is great.
Hubby's going to be excited.
Free.
that
I feel
you
so
came
free
back.
right now.
Free and liberated.
Yeah.
Stay with us. We have more Midday after the break. We'll be right back.